Dillian the Body Snatcher right here. It's a champ. Big up to Sporting Icon. Subscribe. Otherwise, I might pay you guys a visit.
Now, ever since the interview or sit-down chat that I had with Eddie Hearn a few days ago, one particular part in that entire video was about Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz versus Dereck Chisora versus Breazeale. And that's kind of the main point that I know a lot of people have picked up on within that chat. And I'll put the entire interview in the description box, so if you haven't watched it yet, we'll go give the whole thing a watch. But I'm going to play a little bit of audio for you all, which is unusual for me to actually do. First of all, I never listen to my own videos back, and second of all, usually I avoid that kind of thing due to copyrights, but I'm not going to copyright myself, am I? And this kind of thing has been going around the internet ever since I did this video, and my video was uploaded about 5 or 6 hours before other ones. And a lot of people have been talking about my particular video on their videos about it, but for whatever reason, didn't give me any kind of shout out. Weird that, isn't it? But regardless, doesn't matter, but thank you very much anyway. So I don't usually do any kind of response to my own videos. That's not pretty much what I do. I react to articles and things like that I see, or IFL TV, for example. If Eddie Hearn or whoever was talking on one of them, I will then react. Now, during this interview, this chat that I had with Eddie Hearn, he said that Dereck Chisora is what the fans want, as in more boxing fans would like to see Dillian Whyte versus Dereck Chisora over Luis Ortiz. And what I'll do is I'll play this clip for you, and then I'll react to it in the way that maybe I should have reacted at the time, but there's one particular bit that threw me, which is why I didn't react, which is kind of out of character for me, I think. So anyway, I'll play this bit of a clip for you all.
I know it's never official until you say so. Who's the favourite between Ortiz and Chisora?
Definitely Chisora. But the Ortiz fight could be made if Chisora deal doesn't happen. Right. The fight that I think we want, and generally, certainly the mass public want, is Chisora. I know, like, from a hardcore perspective, people love the Ortiz fight as well. So our focus is on the Chisora fight, but we are running out of time. Yeah. So if that fight's not made by the end of the week or the end of the weekend, we should start focusing on Whyte and Ortiz and Breazeale. You know, that's a fight that could lead to the mandatory position. So they're really good fights, but yeah, we would like to make the Chisora fight, but you know, we are running a bit low on time now.
Is there Dominic Breazeale just not interested at all?
Yeah, I think Breazeale is a fight that can work. I think the tough thing is when you're mandatory like Breazeale is, do you want to take a chance?
He's going to want to be the A side, isn't he?
Yeah, but that's fine, but he could just sit it out and just have an easy fight, and then at some point he's WBC mandatory. So do you gamble it now against someone like Dillian Whyte? It's a tough decision.
Right, so that was a brief expert, if you like, from that interview there, just covering that particular bit. Now, the bit that threw me, that I'm sure a lot of you guys who've been with me for, I don't know, at least the last few months will know that one of the fights that I've really wanted is Dillian Whyte versus Breazeale, purely for the mandatory position. Okay, because for me, I'm tired of Deontay Wilder avoiding Dillian Whyte, not giving him voluntaries, all this kind of thing. And the best way to force that fight between Whyte and Wilder would be for Whyte to become mandatory. Because we know that WBC in December are going to call for the mandatory. They're already overdue for it, so that's what they're going to do. Which means Wilder cannot avoid Dillian Whyte. Dillian Whyte doesn't have to do a rematch or anything like that because it's mandatory. So Breazeale was the bit that threw me, the fact that he mentioned Breazeale, which is something that I'd never really heard them talking about before. It's always been Chisora and then maybe a Joshua or something like that. Now, the whole thing, when he said that, it threw me because I knew that Breazeale had said on 2 occasions, I'm open to fight Dillian Whyte, and I didn't get any kind of like reaction from Eddie Hearn or anything to say that this was even possible. There's no articles about it or anything like that. So of course, when he said Breazeale, automatically me went, oh really? Because I was under the impression that Breazeale, even though he said all this stuff, didn't actually want the fight. So for him to say, yes, it is possible, my automatic reaction is, well, that would be great. Because then it forces the whole Wilder mandatory situation for Dillian Whyte. Wilder can no longer avoid Dillian Whyte. Regardless of how you put it, whether you believe Wilder beats Whyte or whatever it may be, it's a fight that me as a boxing fan and a Dillian Whyte fan, I want to see that fight more than I do Whyte and Joshua. Purely for my selfish point of view, Dillian Whyte, he's been on this channel on numerous occasions now, and I would love it, absolutely love it, for Dillian Whyte to beat Wilder and then Dillian Whyte have the rematch with Joshua for undisputed. That's why. So when he first said about Breazeale, that's what threw me. Had he not have mentioned Breazeale, my reaction would have been, are you sure that that's what the boxing public want? That they would rather Dereck Chisora over Luis Ortiz? Because for me, no. Not at all, okay? For me, I think that most boxing fans would want Dillian Whyte versus Luis Ortiz. Now, he did say that the hardcore would want Luis Ortiz and the casuals would want Dereck Chisora. But the thing is, for me, is that I can understand why he's saying that, because I don't quite know what the casual audience want. But do the casual audience know Dereck Chisora? Do you know what I mean? They know Joshua, and that's pretty much where it ends. So for everybody who watches my videos and other people's videos on boxing, you're here because you like boxing, and whether it's dawned on you yet, but you are in fact a hardcore boxing fan. That's why you're here. Otherwise, you would just watch the Joshua fight or a couple of fights on TV when they're on there, and you probably wouldn't even bother with YouTube, especially with boxing news channels like myself. So because you're here, that makes you a hardcore. That's why you want Luis Ortiz. That's why I want Luis Ortiz. So what kind of percentage does it make up for fans who will buy the tickets and fans who will watch it on TV, buy the pay-per-view, if of course it's pay-per-view, etc., or the usual Sky Sports stream? What percentage of that would be casual? What percentage of that would be a hardcore boxing fan? It's difficult for me to say because I live in the realm of hardcore with you guys. So I don't know what the casual fan wants. For me, casual just means they'll only watch Joshua. That's pretty much for me. For me, outside of any kind of like a British boxing fan, they're not really a boxing fan. So would they tune in and watch Dereck Chisora, Dillian Whyte? Maybe yes, maybe no. But from a personal point of view, as I've always said before, right after Dillian Whyte beat Joseph Parker and there was talk about him potentially fighting Joshua in April if Wilder is unwilling to do the undisputed, then I said that my personal view is Dillian Whyte has earned the right to fight whoever it is that he wants. He can go fight an extreme journeyman for all I really care, because he's earned that right. He beat Joseph Parker. He beat an undefeated former world champion, Lucas Brown. And he's already beaten Dereck Chisora. But if he wants to get Dereck Chisora, does it do anything for his ranking? No, not really. Does beating Luis Ortiz do anything for his ranking? No. The whole Luis Ortiz thing, it's appealing because it's a good fight and it's a big fight and it quietens down a lot of people. For me, Dillian Whyte will blast through Luis Ortiz. But will he make more money against Chisora? Probably. To be fair, probably. But again, with Luis Ortiz, see a lot of people say, well, Wilder has said that he will give him a shot if he beats Luis Ortiz. Well, Wilder can't say that, because as I've said to you guys at the beginning of the video there, that the WBC will be ordering the mandatory. In other words, he must face the mandatory, and currently that's Dominic Breazeale. So Wilder can say all this that he likes, that I will fight Dillian Whyte next if he beats Luis Ortiz. Isn't going to happen, and he will use the WBC as an excuse. Well, you know what, I want to fight Dillian Whyte, I want to be a man of my word, but I can't. The WBC have blocked it. I've got to fight Dominic Breazeale. Or there's the other one. Well, there's a two-way rematch with Tyson Fury. I beat Tyson Fury, I've got to give him a rematch. I lose to Tyson Fury, I've got to give him a rematch. So for me, as much as I do want to see Luis Ortiz, purely to prove that I believe that Dillian Whyte is an elite fighter and can beat Luis Ortiz and do it more emphatically than Wilder did. But again, that's just me being a hardcore fan. It's a good fight, and it's somebody else on the resume rather than a rematch against Chisora, which, to be honest, Chisora hasn't done anything in recent years. He got the win over Takam, but he was getting laced up by Takam in that fight. Takam not exactly known for a killer instinct and predatory of finishing opponents off. He has done it, I'm not saying he hasn't, but Dillian Whyte, for me, would walk through Dereck Chisora quite comfortably. And for me, the only reason that Dillian might actually take this fight is because maybe he thinks that what Eddie Hearn is saying is right. But really, is there a possibility that Eddie Hearn wants Whyte versus Chisora because he promotes both fighters, which means he's getting double bubble, should we say? Double the pay? Maybe. Or maybe he genuinely believes that the Chisora fight will be more popular. And maybe he's right. Who am I to say? Because I'm looking at it through the eyes of a hardcore fan. And again, just to touch on that hardcore thing, just because maybe I don't know the damn history of the sport. I couldn't tell you who Lennox Lewis's third fight was. I couldn't tell you, not without having a look. So no, I'm not as hardcore, as extreme as what others are. But because we talk about boxing, we are hardcore. So therefore, we're looking through tinted glasses. The fact that maybe the Chisora fight is bigger in the UK than what Luis Ortiz is. Maybe. But I don't know that for a fact. I mean, personally, as I said, I think that Dillian Whyte can fight anybody he wants. As long as he's getting Joshua at the end of the rainbow, it doesn't matter. He's earned the right. So if he chooses to fight Chisora, great. If he chooses to fight Ortiz, great. If he chooses to fight Dominic Breazeale, excellent. For me, Dominic Breazeale is the one. If there's an opportunity, I think Eddie Hearn should be jumping all over that Dominic Breazeale fight. Really, really should, because then it forces Wilder versus Whyte next. We don't have to rely on Deontay Wilder's words of fake promises. We don't have to rely on the possibilities of the WBC not sanctioning that fight because they want the Breazeale one next. We can take all that out of his hands by Dillian Whyte beating Dominic Breazeale. And therefore, Eddie Hearn will get to promote a Deontay Wilder show. For whatever reason, that seems to be what it is that he wants to do. So, by having Whyte versus Breazeale next, Wilder has one of two options. Either fight Joshua for undisputed, Eddie Hearn's going to promote it, or number two, fight Dillian Whyte with no rematch because he's mandatory. Eddie Hearn promotes it. For me, that's the best option. I would love to see Luis Ortiz. Absolutely love it. As a boxing fan, that's the one I would absolutely love to see. But from a future down the line as to what happens next, Breazeale for mandatory. But at the same time, I know a lot of people have said that they believe Dereck Chisora beat Dillian Whyte first time round, bearing in mind that was Dillian Whyte's fourth fight within a 6-month period. So he was well fatigued, hence the reason why he took some time off after that as well. So anyway, a fight with Chisora would certainly shut up a few people, especially if he does what I believe that he would do, which is annihilate him. But even if he did annihilate him, people will say, well, that's what you should have done to start with. And he'll still get no credit, but he'll have a very healthy bank balance. Anyway, that's my thoughts on it all. You drop me yours, click that thumbs up and subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.